So what do you get when you have a super full moon in Aquarius that is squaring off the transformative planet of Uranus? And in the mix, you also have Jupiter and Saturn squaring off. And then just for fun, you throw in the super fiery planet of Mars. Well, we're going to find out, because that is exactly what is happening in this super full moon of Aquarius. Oh, and there's also a Mercury retrograde, which, by the way, that's why this video is being posted a little bit late. I've been spending 2 days with technical difficulties trying to get this video made. So yes, Mercury is in full swing. Those of you who follow astrology have probably heard of Mercury retrograde. It's known for technical difficulties, delays in travel, and miscommunications of all kind. But we're going to get to that in a second. So Aquarius is actually, it's ruled by Uranus, which is one of the reasons why it's very interesting that this super full moon is squaring its ruler, Uranus, which is in Taurus. Now, Uranus is in Taurus for a minute, and it has ushered in changes that are very practical, that are with our like mundane lives, home, health, family, our physical reality a little bit more than if it were like, for example, like in Pisces, where the transformation would be more like spiritual or emotional in nature. So we have Uranus that's squaring off the moon that is in Aquarius, and when there's a full moon, the moon and the sun are always in opposition. So that means that the sun is in Leo. And Leo and Mercury are conjunct, meaning that they're essentially they're right on top of one another. And so their energies are being mixed. And Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. And so with it being in Leo and it's retrograde, one way to think about it was when Mercury goes retrograde is it goes into the underworld. And so as it goes into the underworld, it's going into our subconscious. And that's one of the reasons why Mercury, although it's not a great time for technology or for signing agreements or leases or anything of that nature, or travel in general, it is a good time for reanalyzing, taking stock, and basically like tying up loose ends. Any kind of projects or anything that was started before the retrograde, now's a really good time to revisit those and to clean them up. So Leo is the sign of our identity, and this becomes very very important because Chiron is in harmony with the Leo sun. And the sun is about our identity as well. So we have the planet that's associated with our identity, that is in the sign associated with our identity, that then is also in harmony with Chiron that happens to be in Aries, which is another sign that's associated with the sovereign self. So Leo is more concerned about like, how can I express myself? It likes to be seen, and it's a natural showman. And then we have Aries, which it's more about like, how do I protect my sovereignty? And Aries is ruled by Mars, which is going to be important here in a second. As you're going to see, we have the same energies that are showing up in different ways that are all kind of bouncing off of each other. And that to me is like where it's like X marks the spot. It's a nexus, a crossroad that will mark a major milestone for a lot of us. There's huge transformation that can happen with this super full moon. In fact, some folks may find that changes and transformation in their life happen incredibly rapidly and come out of nowhere. So this super full moon is a real mixed bag. It is one that can create major blessings in our life, and it also can create major upheaval. There is very justified reasons to have both anxiety as well as a lot of hope with this super full moon. So with Chiron being the wounded healer that is in Aries, which is about the sovereign self, and it's in harmony with the identity. This is really continuing this theme of this like transformation of the self, and very much about like a different relationship on how we relate to others, to our loved ones, and to the world at large. So that is one part of this major shift. But because Uranus is in the very practical sign of Taurus, this may show up and be expressed in a variety of different ways. Our jobs, where we live, how we create our income, like all of these things 6 months from now, we may look back and like we may have a completely different life. In fact, for some people, we may have a very different life in a month from now. Like that's the kind of rapid change that this has the potential to make. And whether or not it gets expressed really kind of depends on your own birth chart, and also like your own decisions and how you leverage the energy. So we have that, and then we have Jupiter and Mars that are conjunct. They went conjunct on August 14th. And so they are squaring Saturn and Venus. Now, Venus is in Virgo at 18 degrees, and Saturn is at Pisces at 17 degrees. So when Jupiter and Saturn, when they square off, it always creates tension, because you have Jupiter, which is about expansion, it's about luck, and then you have Saturn, which is about limitation, time-bound consciousness, and it has a lot to do with structure. When these things square off, it usually will initiate some sort of change. So in addition to like this Uranus squaring with the sun and the moon, we also, and then we have the moon in Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, which initiates change. We also have Jupiter and Saturn squaring off, which also initiates change. And then just for funsies, Mars is on top of Jupiter, which is adding to this square activating energy. Squares are known as being tense, and challenging, but really what they are is they get things going. Without that tension, without the challenge, without any kind of pressure, typically nothing really happens. So we do need the squares. We need these activating kind of energies that will allow us, that will invite us, put a little fire under us in order to be able to move and to make the decisions that really are best for our growth and our evolution. And putting a fire under us is almost literal when it comes to Mars, because Mars is associated with the fire elements, it's associated with passion, it's associated with courage, and it's also associated with conflict. So something to be very conscientious of around this full moon and for the next couple weeks is being very, very conscientious about the way we communicate. There's a lot going on underneath the surface for folks. So this configuration with Mars and Jupiter and Saturn is something where Mars will be in a prime position to help us get over things like procrastination. It will help us get over self-doubt, fears. It will give us additional courage. And it will also, I think, personally too, I think Jupiter and Saturn is, when it squares off, especially with this, because if it was just Jupiter, Mars, and Uranus in the play, it would be all expanded transformation, change, growth, and it could be even more overwhelming. My opinion is that although Saturn can sometimes feel like a little bit of a bummer because it has a restricting kind of quality to it, it's giving the transformation structure. And I personally would not be very comfortable with Mars, which is so passionate but also aggressive, being amplified by Jupiter, because anything Jupiter touches, it amplifies, it makes it go bigger. And we have Uranus, which it can come in like a wrecking ball. I think that the Saturn squaring all this energy off is actually a balancing kind of energy in this particular case. A lot of Jupiter and Saturn squaring off in the history has caused like a lot of pain, but in this particular case, even though we may feel like we're on an emotional roller coaster with it, because we're getting pulled between the infinite possibilities and also being like sucked back into like the fact that we don't really know how things are going to work out yet. Despite the fact that that can create a lot of tension and anxiety, if it wasn't for Saturn's structural kind of energy, I think a lot of people would be even more predisposed to take unnecessary risks, to be more impetuous, and to put the cart before the horse. In this particular case, I firmly believe that Saturn is quite a blessing with all of this going on. It may not feel good, but it is something that is going to give us the kind of structure needed to make decisions that will create change that will be sustainable for the long term. Saturn is asking us to play the long game with this, to not go into fear, to not be so uncomfortable that we just want to do something to change our circumstances. It's asking us to plan, to strategize, and Venus being in Virgo will very much help with that. So Venus in Virgo, Venus, it rules Taurus, which Uranus is in that sign. So we have a lot of upheaval that's coming up. A lot of people are going to be changing their jobs. They're going to be changing their livelihoods. They're going to figure out like different ways to create different types of wealth. There's going to be perhaps for some folks, they're going to be reanalyzing their health, especially in Virgo. Virgo is very much a sign that is concerned about the physical health. We may be also taking a look at our family, our home, so on and so forth. And Virgo is very strategic. It organizes, it analyzes. So you have Saturn, which is this like kind of limiting feeling force that is forcing us to be more strategic and to create a structure, to not just race ahead before we're actually ready to make the changes necessary. And then Venus in Virgo is coming in and is helping us like put all of our ducks in a row. This is really what the super full moon is about, is getting all of your ducks in a row. Change is coming regardless if we want it to or not. So change is coming globally, change is coming for with us personally, and for those of us who have been wanting change, even then it can feel a little uncomfortable, right? Because there's this element of uncertainty with this full moon. With Chiron, we we have a lot of clarity on what it is that we need for our own self-care, for our own preservation, and to live our lives to its fullest potential. We're starting to have more awareness, and I would say more of a priority for our own needs, wants, and desires, which in this case is a healthy thing. But then you have all of this energy that's coming in, and it is asking us, okay, now that you have that clarity, how are you going to put that into place? And Saturn might come in and might create a little bit of pessimism. It's going to challenge us, but that's okay. It doesn't mean that what you want isn't available. It's putting us in a place where we're challenged enough to really think things through so that we create a plan that is a more of a structural type of plan ahead. For some of us, we're gonna, with Mars being in the mix, we may have to take a leap of faith in order to create the series of events that will allow the how to present itself. So keep that in mind, is that for some of us, we'll be lucky enough to be able to kind of observe a little bit more before and then create a plan from more of a passive point of view. But some of us are going to be put into a place where we're going to have to take a leap of faith into the unknown and then strategize. A lot of folks, I think most of us have probably had those kind of experiences in our life where you just have to take a leap of faith. For example, like you get offered a job and you're not really sure if it is something that's going to be better than what you have. So, like you take a leap of faith into the unknown, and you know, take stock of all the information that you have available. You know, perhaps you reach out for, you know, you talk to somebody, or you you know, have a clarity session or something of that nature to get more information. But at the end of the day, you're not going to know exactly what's going to happen until you take the leap of faith. And so there's that element of it as well that is part of this. So either way, though, we're going to be asked to get our ducks in a row. Whether or not those ducks are being put into a row as a result of one major decision that we are making, or our ducks are in a row because we are fortunate enough to be able to sit back and strategize first before we take that leap. Most of us are going, I think, are going to have to take some sort of leap of faith somewhere in this. And that's a good thing, because it allows us to cultivate more of a trust in our own selves. So one thing I want to say before we get into the tarot and take a closer look at what's ahead is just to be very conscientious for the next couple of weeks as far as frustrations and irritability, conflict, and angry words are more likely to happen for the next couple of weeks. And a lot of folks may find that the relationship status changes in the next couple of weeks as well. So just be aware of that. Conflict is very likely right now. So, and with Mercury being a retrograde until the 28th, miscommunication and misunderstandings are more likely as well. So just make sure that, you know, you are reiterating yourself, that you're checking in to make sure that you're clear, and trying our best to speak from a place of compassion and wanting to understand as much as wanting to be understood. So without further ado, let's take a look and see what the tarot might have to say. How best can we leverage the super full moon in Aquarius? All right, I have a bunch of them here. Okay, so Queen of Wands, this would very much be the kind of energy around Mars right now. So because the Wands is about fire, the Queen of Wands is also about her courage, her charisma, and she's also, the black cat represents her shadow. It's domesticated, meaning that she has a keen awareness of both her light and her dark, and she is not ashamed of the wounds that she perhaps still has, about the wounds that might be in her past. She's been able to transmute them and have a loving relationship with those parts of ourselves, and thus turning those experiences into wisdom. And with that wisdom, we have a lot of kind of Leo energy here, because we have the lions that are on the top of the card here. And then we also have the sunflower, and the sunflower is associated with the sun, obviously, and Leo is associated with the sun. So there's a lot of Leo energy around that particular card, and our sun is currently in Leo, and so is Mercury that is conjunct it. And the more that we express our desires in a respectful way, in a way that isn't like, you know, either I get my way. Sometimes I think we have like an either or kind of mentality, that somebody else getting their way means that there's like less pie for us, and it doesn't work like that. So the more that we respectfully communicate our desires and what it is that we want, our dreams, our hopes, our aspirations, we might even be able to eventually get folks to help assist us. But there's a journey to that here in a second. I'll show you here in a second about that. So the more that we express our desires, the more space that we're creating for joy. Ace of Cups is about joy. And we're preparing for a journey. So the Three of Wands is about this guy's waiting for his ship to come in. The Two of Wands is the card that comes before this, and that is about like packing your bags for the journey. And the Three of Wands is he's now waiting for his ship to come in. This is energy that has been rolling around for the last year or so. And actually Jupiter and Saturn are going to be squaring off 4 more times in the next 18 months. So there is going to be chapters of this transformation that are going to continue to unfold. This is not the first time that it's not the last time. It's not the first time that we have talked about these kind of themes, and it's not going to be the last. The next couple of years are going to also continue this theme of massive transformation and change and growth and expansion. And when we get to the other side of it, I think many of us are going to be a lot happier than we were today if we take those opportunities. So we are really honoring our sovereign self, our joy, and we are expressing that. And as we do so, this is interesting because we have these 2 cards that came out together. That means they're almost like, it's like conjunct of the planets where like their energies are combined. And these energies are very, very different. Just like Saturn and Jupiter are polar opposites. Jupiter is luck and expansion and freedom and woo. And we have Saturn, which is structure and being serious and time and, you know, limitation and what's real. So you have these 2 polar opposites. And I think this is what this is about here. I think we have the Three of Pentacles, which is about teamwork. And these guys are building a temple, and each one of them are staying in their own lane. They know what's expected of them, and they are together creating something that is bigger and more beautiful, something that they couldn't create on their own. In order to get to that, though, they're getting through the Five of Wands. We have the Five of Wands, which is actually about conflict. It's not about harmonious teamwork at all. So what that's telling me is that in order for us to get to the other side, to get to a place where we do know where support is coming from, to support what it is that we're wanting to build in our life, Three of Pentacles, it might mean that we might have to go through a bit of a rub, right? A bit of the limiting forces. This might represent, for some people, this might represent other people's opinions of what it is that you want in life, and of your plans and your aspirations. It may also represent a little bit of self-doubt. That could be part of the conflict. But because it's right side up, I think that this particular conflict has more to do with how we relate with our external circumstances and the people in our lives, more than it actually has to do with our internal self-beliefs. And at least in this particular case, if it was upside down, it would be more internal. So this is Saturn and Jupiter. Saturn is coming up and saying, hey, these are the limitations. You know, there's some folks that might have some influence in your life that aren't exactly in alignment with what it is that you want to build. So it doesn't mean you have to kick them out of your life completely, but you might need to make some space. And this doesn't necessarily mean it's family or close friends. It really could be anybody. It could be anybody from your boss or coworkers or your neighbor, anybody who is creating an environment or a circumstance that is making it harder for you to move ahead than is actually being supportive. And from there, we have, I want a clarity card for the Seven of Swords. Okay. So within that, there may be some unknowns that we are not aware of yet. Some of these might be deception, because the Seven of Swords, when it is reversed, has to do about secrets and deception, and it could also mean just things that are like in our blind spot that we're not aware of. I think that this also, what's coming to me, because the clarity card for that is the Two of Cups, which is about relationships. To me, what that is saying is that for a lot of people, I don't think that most people it's going to be like a malicious lie that you find out about. I think it's going to be more about something that you didn't realize someone believed, or an opinion that they had, or that they themselves are victims of their own semi-delusions, where their own thinking and thought process around something is a little bit off. And so that is affecting our relationships. And what's great about the Two of Cups is I look at the Two of Cups as about healing relationships. A lot of the cards in most tarot decks have the caduceus symbol in the middle, where you have the two snakes that are going up the staff with the wings, and the sign of medicine. So to me, this is also about like healing either through relationships or healing the relationship itself. That what is being healed through this conflict is that there are some imbalances, some things that are in our blind spot, perhaps even lies or delusions that are coming to the surface so that they can be healed. And then from there, you're going to know who your inner and outer circle are. And that, and making that distinction, it might come with a bit of grief, but at the end of the day, it's making more space for true joy. Like if somebody isn't wanting to, align in the direction that you're wanting to take your life, then, that's okay. It's okay. And it's okay to grieve too. So, and for some people, it may be a big loss. For other people, it may be like not much of a loss at all. Like perhaps for you, it might be some sort of boss that is not supportive and is not even somebody you like. For other people, it may feel like more of a true sacrifice because it might be somebody who is close to you. So, all right, well, thank you all so much. If this was entertaining or helpful at all, please hit the subscribe, like button, the bell notification, all the things. I know that those things are always said in these videos, and it can get kind of like whatever, like wah, 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 but it really does help our channels, and it will help this channel get the information out to as many people as is needed. And if you are needing a personalized session, either joy coaching session for the inner child, or you would like a tarot session, feel free to hit the link below in the description and book your reading or your virtual session. All right, all, I will see you in a couple weeks where we're going to take a look at the next new moon, a new chapter in this new beginning that is unfolding before us. Bye-bye.